Recording in progress.
There we go. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to Art 196, Introduction to Web Design, Fall Semester 2021. Where we left off with Lesson 6, we created some styles for the right aside to distinguish it from the left aside. So the styles were even more specific. We have a style that affects both. We have a style that will affect the left, and we have a style that will affect the right. The next style that we need to work on that's specific to the right pertains to the paragraph tag inside there. So what we want to do is create a brand new style. So I'm going to come over here. Let's see. Got that selected. I got to make sure that I have green styles selected. There we go. Green styles, all. I don't want to show any set because we don't have a set created yet. And now I click the little plus sign right here. So what this one is going to be is dot sidebar 2. Remember, we created a specific class for that. Sidebar 2. Space P for the paragraph tag, and then I hit the return key twice in order to finalize the name for that. So the next series of styles that they want us to make for this is we're going to add a margin to the bottom. So make sure that I'm adding to it margin, not padding, and vice versa. So I want 5 pixels. So that pushes that down a little bit. We also want to add 10 pixels to the left and to the right. So we'll do that. So 0 to the top and bottom. So we're going to scroll down to padding, and we'll just use the shorthand method. 0 pixels, 0 px, space, and then 10 px. And then hit the tab key. And you'll notice that it inset it just a little bit, just enough. That's kind of one of my pet peeves is I really hate it when text butts up right up against the edge of a div. So then after that, we have one more time, we're going to change the line height of that. Line height in web design, I don't think I've mentioned this before, is equivalent to leading in print. So we want to go to text. We want to scroll down to line height, and I always have a trouble finding it. So let me come down here. It's line. Come on, come on, come on. Line height. Right here. There we go. So the line height is going to be in M's. Select M's, and it's 1 point. Again, M's are kind of like percentages in the sense that they are proportional. So we have 0 at the moment, and I'm going to change that to 1.3 M's. There we go, and that pushes it down a little bit. Notice that as I'm changing the styles to our custom style sheet, green styles, that I see the little asterisk up here. So that you have to remember that while I haven't made any significant changes to the page itself, and I don't see that asterisk there, if I go to save, it may prompt me and it may not to make sure that I update and save the style sheet as well. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change, manage the bootstrap width component. Remember I said that each row it consists of 12 units. Right now, no more, no less. And so if we look at the left aside, okay, so let's just look at the left aside over there. We'll click at this one. There we go. So I'm using the tag selector to select it. And you'll notice that it says column dash small dash 4. And if we do the same for the one in the middle, or okay. I'm going to go ahead and select the article. Notice that it has 4 units and then this has 4 units. We want to assign a little bit more space to the article. So to do that, we're going to make the column widths on both the left and the right sides a little bit less. So what I can do is I can come in here and let me go back. I don't want to do that. Let me undo. I don't know what I deleted it. Didn't want to delete it. I want to come in there and instead of 4 units, I'm going to hit the back key and hit 3 and then hit the return key. Okay. So notice it's a little bit narrower and notice the gap over here to the right. So now what I can do is I can use the tag selector in here. Again, just click anywhere inside the article tag. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the article down here. So that's selected. And again, notice that there's 4 units. So if I have 3, I'm going to change this one to 6. So I'm going to go 3, 3, and 6. So I click in there. Make sure that I've selected properly. It's highlighted. There we go. 6, and go ahead and hit the return key. Now notice what happens when you exceed the 12 unit limit, because we have 3 and 6 is 9 plus 4 pushes it over to 13. So now what I need to do is click on the right side, use the tag selector to select it. Okay, and again, where we have that 4 units, click in there and make sure that I have a little cursor right after the 4. Nope, I didn't want to delete it. So let me undo that. So let me come back again, click again. There we go. 3 units, hit the return key, and boom, they all fit beautifully right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save all, since I'm happy with the changes that I've made. And then we have a few more things that we're going to do today. We're going to insert some HTML entities into this. The first one will be for the footer. And then we're going to go into or adjusting our text, our font choices for the text. So let me make sure that everything is saved. File, save all. And that also saves the CSS style sheet. So what we want to do now here for the footer, okay, is I'm going to come back over to our style sheet and I'm going to go ahead and under selectors, making sure that green styles is selected. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the plus and I'm going to put in footer, F-O-O-T-E-R, hit the return key twice. That's it. We don't need to put any more than that. So once we've added that for the footer, we can now come up here and we can add a background color. We can add padding. We can add text color. We're going to use the same text color that we used up here in our nav bar. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to start with the padding. Okay, so let's go down to padding. And I'm going to use the shorthand method. I'm going to use, and I change this a little bit sometimes because I don't like what they have done. I want 1M space, and then we want 0 pixels, 0px. Okay, and hit the tab key. Notice that it gave it the padding, it made it a little bit thicker. Sometimes I push the margins down a little bit too, because I don't like when the text or the elements in either the asides or the main article nearly touch the footer. I like there to be a little bit of gap or space. It actually serves to enhance the readability of the page when you have some gaps like we have up here, so that the eye can flow around and through all of that. Okay. So we've changed the padding. Now we're going to change the background color. So let me click on the background tab. And the background color is what we used before. We used that deep green. And I can't remember which one it is. So I'm just going to put in 090. Whoops. There we go. And I'll click off of it. And it's turned green. And we're going to change the color of the text. Right now, it will default to black, and we want to be able to see it. So we're going to use the FFC for that. That's that light yellow here. That's the FFC. Okay. Now what we need to do is, well, we can put the background image in there if we want. I guess they have done that for the in the textbook. You can leave that as is, or you could also go ahead and put in the background image for that. So let's go ahead and put in a gradient for the background color. Let's do that. So that will override in the event that someone has a browser that can't handle CSS3. So we can go ahead and put in a gradient here. Okay, so what we want for the top color is 069. Let's click here. And I'm going to go back to hexadecimal. So I want 069. 069. There we go, that deep blue. And then we want for the bottom, we want 0C0. So let's go ahead and here. I'm not sure that this is right. Maybe I'm not looking correctly. It was 0C0. So do we want that at the bottom? I guess so. Okay, well, let's go ahead and put it in here. If we don't want it, we can always go back and change it later. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some text. So in the footer here, we can either do this from, insert from up here. We can do it in code view. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to do it in code view. So here's the opening and closing tag for the footer. I'm just going to click inside here, and I'm going to put a paragraph tag. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the left insert bracket, and I'm going to put a P, and then I'm going to put a closing bracket, and then I'm going to put there again and closing. And notice that it knows to put the closing. Now inside here, what we want to do is we're going to add in here. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead here for a minute. I have to look because they wanted it copyright. So that will be one of the things that we'll add in here. So let's start with the copyright. So a copyright in code, if you want that in there, is, I've forgotten it myself. I want it to be the ampersand, which is that. And then we want, hold on here, copy, PY, and then semicolon. Okay, so we've got that. And now we want it to be, so copyright, and then we'll put, I'll just put a space here, 2021 Meridian Green Start. Okay, all rights, period, all rights reserved. Period. We come back up here, and there we go. So now it inserted the text. Again, another way of doing that is I could have just as easily selected in the footer here. I could have gone up to insert under HTML. I don't want to I want a paragraph tag, so I could have double clicked on there. And I would have wanted it nested inside the div. Sometimes it's just easier to do it in the code view. Paragraph tags are not hard. Heading tags are not hard. But that's done. If you want more space for that, we would have to create a P tag, or let's go back here. What am I saying here? So in the footer, we could have footer P for paragraph. And then we could specify if I wanted to push that over a little bit and down, and I wanted some padding maybe for that, I could do that. So let's do that just for the heck of it. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new one here. Now put in footer, space, P, the return key twice. Okay. You'll notice that it's highlighted, and that's a good sign. So I'll just play with this for a minute. So for a minute, imagine if I wanted to push it down a little bit. I could click in here and get a sense of how much I wanted that. See how I can push that down like so? If I wanted it more centered. So right now that's set to 8 pixels, but if I wanted maybe 5 pixels, I could do that. Okay, just to push it down a little bit. And likewise under padding, if I wanted to push it over, right now it's set to 0, but let's go ahead and set that to 10. And that pushed it over a tad. If you wanted even more, if you wanted 20 pixels, so that would be the way to adjust. That's the only way you have to adjust it. It's not like Illustrator or Photoshop where you can just select the text and move it, at your will. It doesn't work that way. So we've got that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create some global styles. And the global styles pertain to the text choices that we're making, and then or the font choices that we're making for our text. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add a brand new selector here, and it's going to be for the body tag. Remember, the body tag is at the root, and everything else right now, if I override the body, it will have a cascade effect and affect everything after that, unless I specify otherwise. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and add the selector here, and I just want it to be a body tag. Twice. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to go to text. Okay. And if I click on the set, I don't want set color, I want set the font. And if I click on here, you'll notice that we have different font families that are selected here. What we want to do is we want to manage the fonts. We're going to create our own font stack. That's basically what they're called. And if you recall, I believe I've talked about this before, the reason that you have a font stack is that the font that is chosen is determined by the end user. And it's whatever fonts are available on their computer that enables the browser to render it. So that's why you'll see a whole slew of these. For example, let's just look at the top one. Arial narrow. That would be your first choice, but if they don't have Arial narrow, then it jumps to the next one, Arial. If they don't have Arial at all, then it goes to Verdana. If they don't have Verdana, then it goes to whatever their default sans serif typeface is. So I'm going to select Manage Fonts. And this is really kind of a neat feature. What we want to do is we're going to create a custom font stack here. So if I do that, but even before we do that, if we look at Adobe Edge Web Fonts, if you click here, at this top one, it will let you know what fonts will work well for headlines. If I turn that off and I click this one, it lets you know what fonts will work well for the body copy, or text that's relatively small. If you select both of them, it lets you know that there is only one typeface that works well out of all of these for both headlines as well as body copy, and that's Source Sans Pro. So I'm going to turn this off. And what we're going to do is we're going to start creating our own custom font stack. So we're going to come in here and we're going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and do a search in here. And I'm going to put in source Sans Pro or Sans Source Pro. Sans Source Pro. No? Okay. What was it? It was, we want, I can't remember myself. So hold on here. Let me go back out of here. Let's go back. And I did both of these. I can't, Source Sans Pro. Okay, so let's go back over our font stacks. We're going to create a custom one. Source Sans Pro. Source Sans. There we go. Source Sans Pro. So I'm just, since I know in advance which one I want, rather than scroll up and down here, I'm just putting it and it has it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this little button right here that pushes it over. So this would be my first choice. Then we have to decide on the second, third, and fourth for them, for ourselves. And the ones that they want, and I'm going to refer to the book so that I can see this. Here we go. We start with Source Sans Pro. And then after that, that'll be the font family. So after that, we're going to put in here, just have to check. We want Trebuchet. So Trebuchet MS. And again, it's easier to type it in rather than to scroll up and down. Go ahead, and that will be our second choice. Third choice will be Verdana. That used to be my favorite since it was a typeface that was designed specifically for the web. But I'm going to go ahead and put Verdana in here. Okay, and I'm going to bring that over. That'll be our third choice. And fourth choice will be Arial. Arial is a very common typeface. It's really kind of a bastardization of Helvetica, but somehow it's become popular. And then we want, for our last choice, if we have none of those, we'll have Helvetica. Okay. And then I suppose after that, we really should put sans serif as the last choice. So if they don't have any of these, it's going to use whatever default sans serif typeface they have. And we'll go ahead and we'll put that over. So this is going to become our new font stack. So I'm going to select done. And now I can go back in here and I have the font family, and I'll click in here and you'll see this is the new one that we just created. So I'm going to select that. And notice how it automatically updated and it affected everything afterwards. So one more thing that we're going to do too is we're going to make sure we're going to specify font size. So let's go ahead and select. We've used the font family in here. So let's go ahead and select font size. And we're going to specify a point size. So we'll do it in pixel, rather not point, but pixels. And it will be, that's the sort of thing that you want to see. That means that when it disappears, that means that the rule that we're creating is affecting everything that we have here. So we want it to be 14 pixels. There we go. So we're doing pretty good right now this morning. The computer is working pretty well. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add one for and dress up the H1 tag in our article here. So we're going to make one more rule here, and then we should be pretty much done for today. What I will do though, before I start lesson 7, just to let you know, is that I want to take you to infinityfree.net, because after we finish lesson 7, you'll be asked to publish it. And so that, and to get a grade for that, lessons 1 through 7, you'll publish it and you'll just email me the link to it. Okay, you're published, and it will be in published. Infinity Free is a free hosting service. So that's what we're going to use. Anyway, just to let you know what we can, we'll talk about in a few minutes after we get done with this lesson. So a few more, another selector that we want to create here. So this one is going to be main.row because it affects the main row. And then a space, and then we want article because it's not just the row. I mean, we want the row, but then within the row, we want the article affected. And then a space, and then we want just the H1. Okay, hit the return key twice. And now we can go in, and what we want to do is we're going to, under font, we're going to add a new font here. So let's go to the type, and I'm going to go to font family. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to manage fonts. And it's a serif typeface. Let me just look for it. It's Patois 1. There we go. We want Patois 1 added. And we'll go ahead and add that. And then what we're going to do is I can go back to font again and notice that it's been added to our fonts. Now, the problem with it doing it the way the book does it is that you'll notice that after you publish it, if you don't have Patois 1 on your computer, it will revert back to Source Sans Pro. So I'm going to go ahead, or if it doesn't even do that, it may go back to Times Roman, which is probably the default typeface font that's used on your browser. So I'm going to select Patois 1. Notice how it just changed it. That's not a nice choice. It's kind of a slab serif, you know, kind of blocky. It makes it look kind of nice there. So we've done that. So now what we're going to do for the rule is we're going to change a few things. We're going to beef up the margin a little bit. So let me go back to here, and margins we're going to put in along the top. We're going to put in 0, and notice that, remember, even though 0 is here, we need to put it in manually. Why? I don't know. That's just the way it works. And then a margin along the bottom, we're going to use 15 pixels. 15. Hit the tab key. And that pushed that down. Now, notice how at the top, they have 0 pixels. I don't like that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to put maybe 10 pixels for the margins to push that down a little bit. I could also change the padding instead, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try 10 pixels here. Notice how it pushed the text down a little bit. I just like a little bit more air there than what they have specified. And then what we want to do is we're going to change the font size to beef it up a little bit. So under font size, let's go back to type and let's look at font size. I want it to be 300%. So let's go to percentages. And that again is a good sign when it disappears. Then I know it's working. 300%. There we go. So it's a nice size. And then the last thing we want is line height. Again, that refers to the leading, is going to be 1M. Line height is going to be in M's. And we want 1M. There we go. So now we've created and also under green styles, under the main row aside, font size, we're going to change that too. So there are a few other things that we need to change. So let me go back to in green styles here. These things I'm forgetting here. main row aside. So let's go to the main row aside. Here we go. So for the asides, we want the type size to be a little bit smaller. So we're tweaking that. We're going to use percentages here. I'm going to go to 95%. There we go. So it's a little bit smaller than the rest. The font sizes that we've used. Marine styles, the main row aside block quote. We're going to change that. And we're going to change the font size to 100%. Why are we doing this? Just because the book is telling us to do that. So let's change that to 100%. But that's something that you can fool around with yourself and determine whether you want it to look a certain way or not. And I would tinker with it. For example, with the block quotes, I like on my own website, there is a little, we have border to the left, but they've specified that we want no border at all. So I'm going to come back up here under borders, and I'm just going to say under borders, I'll just say none. So there's no borders, and that overrides the default, which there is a gray border to the left of that. So let's see if there's anything more that we need to do here. I'm checking this out, and that's it. We're done with this. So I'm going to save everything. We're good to go. And we have created a basic template for the remainder of the semester. There's one more main thing that we're going to do in lesson 7, and that will take us, we'll probably finish that up next week, and you'll be ready to publish it. And what we will be doing next week in lesson 7 is to make it responsive, which means that we're going to change a few things when it's reduced in size for a tablet and then for a smartphone. Because right now, when we reduce it, notice it just gets smaller, smaller, smaller until we get to a smartphone, and then it jumps down. A couple of things that we'll want to change. Remember, I hope you remember that I mentioned early on in the semester that the way pages are loaded in your browser, it goes in the code and it goes from the top to the left and then down. So you'll notice that what loaded first, which makes perfect sense, is your nav bar, then your header. But then when it got to the main row, the first thing that it saw was your quote. And then it loads the article, and then it loads the right aside, and then the footer. Well, we're going to change the order of this so that the article loads first when it goes down to a tablet, and also when it goes down to a tablet, instead of just reducing the size of the columns, it's going to change and go to a 2-column format. And then when you go down to a smartphone, it will jump down to a 1-column format. And then there will be a few other things that will change in terms of the size, especially for a smartphone, the size of the text, the leading, that sort of thing, especially when it goes down to something really, really small. I think it was 426 pixels, something like that. There we go. So we'll make some edits to that, and that will be it for creating our basic template that we'll use, as I said, for the remainder of the semester. And what the remainder of the semester will entail is learning how to insert different kinds of content into our pages, ranging from unordered lists to tables and that sort of thing. Inserting images and controlling those and the placement of those on your page and so on and so forth. So, but this, we've done all the heavy lifting now. This is the core of our page, of each page that we'll create for our entire website. It took a bit of work. It was a little bit awkward at times. Some of the mistakes that I made, or probably some of the glitches with my computer, made it kind of painful not to run at live time. There's a lag. So let me go ahead and save all of this. Save all. And we're going to go ahead and update. Sure. Let's go ahead and close. So file, save all. Just make sure that we've done it again. There we go. So we're set to go. So what you need to do next is I'm going to jump to bring up a browser here. And what I want all of you to do while you're finishing up this lesson, before we work on lesson 7, is that I want you to create an account for the hosting service that we're going to use. And let's see, I mentioned that was, can't remember myself now that I'm asked to do that. So hold on one second. I'm going to pause for just a second. So the account that you want to create is with Infinity Free, not .com, but .net. And this is what it looks like. It's a free unlimited web hosting service. So go ahead and follow the directions where it says sign up here. And then when we've completed lesson 7, I will show you how to publish and upload your files to your Infinity Free hosting service. Because what all of the things that you are working on right now, okay, remember I said that we had to create an account for all of this to work, so a site. So what we would do is we would manage sites. And that's what we'll do. We'll come back in here, and this is the one that I can rename this that I created for the spring of 2021. But we can double click on here, and you'll notice that there's a place for servers. And here's the one that I have for Infinity Free right here. So you'll go ahead and we'll add a server. You'll double click, and they will give you all of this information from your account. We'll be using FTP. You can add an FTP address. They will give you the username. They will give you the password, and we can add it. And then you can come down here and we can test it and see if it actually links up. And then it will allow us to use FTP to upload our files. Now, see, it shows that there's an error message. So I have to go back in and I have to fix my own. Okay. You can't make a connection. And if you can't make a connection, then it won't work. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to, fix mine before the next lesson. Because sometimes if you don't use it for a while, it will time out. But that's why it's so important that you maintain and control and organize your site information. And then for each successive lesson, what you'll do is you'll just change the root folder. And normally you don't do that. Once you establish a root folder for a site, and you'll see that I have a whole bunch of sites that I maintain. You leave them alone. You don't tinker with them. It's just unique to the lessons that we're working with. Okay. So is it clear what we're doing today? We're finishing up lesson 6, and you're going to also go ahead and create an Infinity Free account, so that when we finish up lesson 7, you'll be able to publish it right away. Okay, that's all we have for today. So you guys are free to leave. I'm going to go ahead and I will publish this on my YouTube account right away. And then that's pretty much it. Any questions before we leave today? No? Okie doke. Then I'm going to stop recording and wait for you guys to log off, and then I will end this session. Okay. Bye-bye.